The Broncos are coming off a roller coaster of a season, of course, on the Russ Let's Ride train. Of course, that crashed and burned after they benched him. Of course, after week, what was it, 16? Either way, though, they actually are in a new era with Bo Nix, quarterback. Sean Payton still their head coach. Maybe as a quarterback, then maybe he can morph into Drew Brees, because that's what this team's going to need, to be honest. But how is this Broncos roster? I'll tell you. Let's go. Broncos 2024 roster grades. With that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fun Up. Of course, please like and subscribe if you guys enjoy the Denver Broncos 2024 roster grades. Of course, as they team coming off a season in which they rallied after a really rough start. Of course, 1-5 start to be exact. They had a lot of ups, but a lot more downs as well. It was a rough season overall, of course, and it all culminated with Russell Wilson getting yelled at by Sean Payton and getting benched after a debacle in Week 16 against Patriots. Of course, they were one of the worst teams in the league. Of course, they lost to them. With all that said, though, the Broncos are a team that, again, was pretty decent overall last year. They had a lot of good things that happened for them, obviously. They got rid of their last player, well, obviously, Brandon McManus, but, again, their longest tenured player, and, of course, Justin Simmons. He was their superstar player on that defense. He's gone now, so they got a couple other guys replacing him. I will say, I do like, there's some really promising players in this roster for sure, but overall, it's a lot of question marks as well. And of course, probably the biggest question mark is at quarterback. They, at least right now, have Jarrett Stidham starting. Again, looking at him overall, he has done a pretty good job in terms of competing. Of course, what is it called? Over his first 4 starts of his career, obviously 2 with the Raiders in 2022, which was really good in his first start, and it's kind of the same type of thing with the Broncos. Of course, he won, of course, in Week 17. He's got a pretty good arm. It's just, again, we haven't really seen him yet. Again, being a starter for the whole season. I honestly think Jarrett Stidham could be a decent player, but again, we just don't know yet. Bo Nix, of course, number 2 overall pick. There are limitations to him physically, obviously. His arm, I think, is good enough to be an NFL quarterback. I'm not going to question that. Again, you could argue, you get to see it at Oregon. I think it is good enough. We'll see how, again, it works out there, but I think he does. His touch, it's not great. His deep ball is not great. Again, we just didn't get to see it a lot last year. His accuracy, though, again, in terms of dependability, is definitely a top 4 guy in this class. I honestly think he's definitely a lot more, again, steady in terms of stability. To even a guy like Drake May, even obviously the talent isn't even comparable, obviously. But he's an athletic guy as well. He can run the ball pretty good. But overall, again, he doesn't progress super duper well. And obviously, looking at it when it comes down to it, without Dan Lanning, he probably wouldn't have gotten picked number 12 overall. Because obviously, he was pretty bad at, what is it called? Auburn, to say the least. But again, really grown. Again, I think he can definitely be a starting caliber guy for sure. Again, he's just got to basically do whatever the heck Sean Payton says and be effective over the middle of the field. Because again, he can do that, have the confidence there. Bo Nix, I really do think, could be again a successful NFL quarterback because he's got the guy in Sean Payton to get that done. Again, is Sean Payton cooked? Then that's the question in the thumbnail. Well, we'll see. Again, if he can't get Bo Nix to work out, probably. But yeah, we'll talk about that more when we get in the coaches' rankings. Zach Wilson, probably the worst start of the career of any quarterback since, I don't even know. Massive bust. Again, he had that big week, what was it, 14 game? Not really, probably, I don't even know. But yeah, he's been awful so far. Again, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, probably the worst. But either way, quarterback, I'll give them a D. Again, there's just so many question marks. I think Jarrett Stidham could be decent, but again, we just don't know. I think Bo Nix could be decent. I don't know, though. Again, it's probably NFL ready. My guess is Bo Nix gives you probably the best chance. No, Jarrett Stidham will give you the best chance to win games. Bo Nix could give you the best chance to win games. And then you got Zach Wilson. So I'm going to give them a D. It's not good. Again, it's just unpredictability, and that's probably the worst thing to have a quarterback. Unless it's good, obviously, after. But again, when you don't know what you're going to have a quarterback, that's a big problem. Now let's take a running back. And a running back for Denver, they also have a pretty interesting group. But again, overall, it's not the greatest in terms of starting caliber play. Javonte Williams, he's definitely cooked at this point. He was terrible last year. It really sucks he tore his ACL in 2022. He just looked to shell himself. Again, I hope he can play better, but he really did struggle. He might have had like 2 runs last year. I'm like, yeah, that's the guy we're used to seeing. Of course, with bowling ball, who just absolutely just plows through the lanes. And his vision also took a little bit of a step back. He just didn't, again, was really hesitant. It was really tough to see there. But again, 2021, he was just massive here, just a freaking bowling ball. Didn't break nearly as many tackles. As a receiver, though, I'll tell you this, he does have some pretty reliable hands, and he does run some pretty decent routes. So you will get something out of that with him. But again, he wasn't even nearly the same player he was in 2021. So yeah, really rough year for him. Samaje Perine, he's a decent backup. I mean, he played okay last year. I really don't think he got the touches he really deserved because in 2022, obviously the best year of his career. They used him out of the backfield. It was nice. I don't think that's really where they need him. They need him to be an efficient back, what is called downhill, and obviously being able to stretch to the outside. Also, again, being also a guy can pass protect pretty well. I think Samaje Perine is a good solid backup, but again, I don't think they used him really to his fullest potential last year. Dylan McLaughlin, this is a guy. Yeah, his hands aren't great. He's probably the most explosive player in this offense, though. Again, I don't know why they didn't use him as much as a receiver. Yeah, his routes are pretty bad. Kind of useless as a what is it called, pass blocker or not? Because again, you look at him, he's 5'7", 287. Like, I mean, you're not gonna get that much out of him, but. Obviously, he's I don't know, his routes aren't great, but obviously, again, I think he's just an explosive player, and he's a bundle of energy, too, so that's great to see. You got Audric Estimé. I think, honestly, he could be the starting running back at the end of the season. That, I mean, it might be a hot take, but I don't really see what's stopping him. Again, when it comes to true, like, just straight-up power running backs, Audric Estimé has, like, 10 times the amount of fresher legs than Javonte Williams, at least from what we've seen. Yes, he's not really a good pass blocker. Yes, he's not, again, that doesn't have the greatest vision, but I really don't care. Audric Estimé, again, he's a freaking beast, and he also has that home run speed, which, again, you really do need. So, super deep running back room. We got a lot of options, but again, at least one of these guys has to be good this year, I guess. I'll give them a D+ for running back. I think that, you know what? I'll give them, yeah, I think D+ is fair because Samaje Perine, we've seen it just time and time again. He's not a starting caliber running back. He's a good player, but again, there's a lot of potential. I'll give you guys good depth at running back, but I don't think Javonte Williams. Again, he was really bad last year. I don't think he's a starting caliber guy, but you could argue C-, but I have to give him a D-. Again, I just don't see the juice for this running back group. I do like the potential of it though, so again, we'll see what can happen. But right as it stands right now, I can give him a D+. Might be a little bit harsh, but I think that's where I'll put him. Now let's get this wide receiver core. And now looking at wide receiver for the Broncos. Of course, they did trade their number. What was it? 9 pick? Where was Jerry Judy pick? Was 12th? I think it was 9. Where was he picked? It's not going to tell us. Where was he picked? 15th. My bad. Whatever. Of course, one of the top, what is called wide receivers in that 2020 draft class. He was, by all intents and purposes, a big disappointment. Like, again, I wouldn't say he was a bust, but yeah, he was not great for this football team. In his place, they did bring in Josh Reynolds, who, again, I think is a better player, to be honest. Of course, their number one guy is Courtland Sutton. I wouldn't exactly call him a true number one receiver. Again, he doesn't, separate really even close to the level you need from that guy, but he does make a lot of plays. Of course, they're by far a career tie, 10 touchdowns last year. I don't think they'll back to 1,100 yards, but I don't think they really need him to be that. They need to be a guy who can go up and get the football, be really good in that athletic, jump ball type of receiver. Also can be able to make some plays in the end zone as well. That would just be big for Courtland Sutton this year. Again, I don't expect him to be anything different than he was last year, which, again, was a good player for sure. But, again, don't get him confused. Again, a true number one receiver. Josh Reynolds. Him and Jared Goff are best buddies. He made a lot more plays downfield last year, which I was really happy to see. Created a lot of what is called yards after catch as well. Josh Reynolds is a really good player, even again if you don't think of him as a really good player. Again, he at the very worst, he's a really good number 3. Marvin Mims Jr. showed some really good flashes last year, again, as a deep threat, but that's really all you got from him. He's an atrocious run blocker. His release package is pretty bad. You really need to have him as a Z receiver, even again in the slot will work. His route running is concerning to say the least, but I'll be honest, guys, there is potential here with this guy. Again, he has pretty decent hands, and I think he could be a really good player in the future. Tim Patrick, he hasn't played in 2 years because, again, what is called, I think, what was it, Achilles and ACL, really sucked, but he's been a reliable receiver in the past. Again, really good hands. He actually does separate pretty well, and again, he's a really dominant guy over the middle. Again, I really hope to, again, after 2 years, Tim Patrick, again, hope he doesn't get injured again, knock on wood. Again, he's back, but again, we haven't seen him in, 3 years, so we really don't know what to expect. Troy Franklin, again, out of Oregon, yes, there's some things that aren't great. Again, he's fast as, yeah, you know what. But also, again, he's just, again, I think he could be a really good player as well. Again, really good prospect, obviously. But there are some things, again, he's not going to, again, be the most versatile route runner, obviously. He doesn't, again, go up and get the football super well. But, again, he's a yak demon, and he's also super fast. Which, again, I think could be very good for this team. Little Jordan Humphrey, first of all, was a 58-yard touchdown he had last year. 54-yarder, again, massive play. He might be able to make plays here and there, but again, don't expect him to do anything crazy. Brandon Johnson, of course, caught the Hail Mary as well. Overall, I think it's actually a pretty deep receiving room. I like it a lot, but when it comes down to it, guys, it screams average for me. Again, Marvin Mims is your third option, just isn't super ideal. Again, if Tim Patrick can, again, be healthy, again, I don't know, I expect, again, what is he, 30 now? I don't expect to see the same guy he was back in 2021, but again, if he can be, somewhat good, that would be great. But again, Marvin Mims Jr.'s third receiver is just not super ideal, but it is pretty deep, and again, it's not great, obviously, but there's worse receiving rooms in the NFL. That's 15 points for this group there. Now let's look at this tight end position. And if I'm being completely honest, guys, right off the bat, this tight end room is not good. Just gonna say it right there. Adam Trotman, he's a good run blocker, but as a receiver, I mean, can you get any worse? I don't know. he played a lot last year. He's a solid run blocker, but guys, he's not a receiving tight end. Like, that's the best way I can put it. Just not very effective. Does absolutely nothing, to be honest. I don't know how he caught 2 touchdowns last year. Greg Dulcich, probably, honestly, I do think Greg Dulcich could be a good player, but guys, he hasn't been healthy at all. Like, he's played 12 games in 2 years. Like, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of him? He does have a pretty good body. Can go He's definitely the physical type of guy. Can go downfield and catch the football. But neither rate is separated, and he's not a good run blocker either. So I mean, he hasn't been healthy either. Like, again, it really sucks about those injuries. But yeah, what am I supposed to expect here, guys? He just hasn't played enough. Lucas Kroll. I mean, he made a couple plays last year, that's for sure. But I mean, like, again, what are we supposed to expect from this guy? Like, he's UDFA at a pit. Like, what? Oh yeah, I'm giving this tight end room an F. Nah, you know what? I'll give him a D-. I'll be a little nice. I'll give him, what is it, 2 points? Yeah. Adam Trautman's not a starting guy. Like, he's just not very good. Greg Dulcich, I guess, could be good if he stays healthy. So, Michael Byrne, I mean, he's a good fullback, but run blocking, like, what the heck? So, D- for run blocking. I really don't like this tight end room. Now let's get into this offensive line. All right, guys, O-line time. Of course, their starting left tackle is Garrett Bowles, one of the more underrated players in the NFL, of course, ever. What was it, 2020, I'd say? Was his breakout year, I guess, and he's been, I guess, was it 2020 or was it 2021? I keep forgetting what year it was. The years fly by with this dude. What is it called? I think it was 2019 he was bad, right? No, he was good 2020, I guess. No, yeah, my bad. 2019 he wasn't great. Again, we thought he was an old guy. He's kind of old now, obviously, but again, Garrett Bowles, he's a really good left tackle. Just again, completely sets a wall in terms of his pass blocker and his run blocker. Not too effective, but again, he's when he gets his hands on guys, pretty good. What is called sustaining those blocks. Alex Palula, whatever this guy's name is, actually did a good job at the end of last year. Again, he got some snaps, but that's probably about it. Again, when it comes down to it, again, we just haven't seen him enough. Again, I think he's pretty athletic, rangy guy there, but outside of, again, being able to, basically stop these, like, finesse rushers, I don't know how effective it will be against maybe a power rusher, again, if he gets in those situations. Ben Powers, good left guard, again, they signed him free agency, did exactly what they needed him to do last year. There were some games where he wasn't great, but overall, again, I think he was pretty decent year overall. Quinn Bailey, boring player. I mean, he does most of the little things right, but again, not too exciting as a blocker, but, I mean, he does a couple things good, so, yeah, that's awesome. Sam Mustipher, I'm gonna be honest, wasn't half bad last year, but when has he ever been, like, even okay? Yeah, he's not a great center, but, I mean, there's worse guys to have, I guess. He's not great, though. Luke Weinberg, he was not good last year. That's part of the reason they got Sam Mustipher, but, I mean, we'll see what happens with him. Quinn Meinerz, really good right guard, like, really good. Underrated guy for sure. I wouldn't say, you could argue he's top 10. Like, he was really good last year, but there's some stuff to work on there. Calvin Throckmorton, there's a reason the Saints let him leave, and he was on the Titans, I guess. Yeah, he's bounced around the league for sure. Michael Glenchie, not really kind of average right tackle. I mean, he'll do some stuff good, but that's probably what I'll say there. Matt Pert, again, reason the Giants let go of him. Not great. But the depth, not too promising for this O-line. The starters, there's some good, there's some bad. I'll probably give them a B-, to be honest. I might be, I'll give them a B. I think they're actually a pretty solid group for Sean Payton because, again, they're going to be able to penetrate for sure. All these guys are pretty good power guys. Overall, again, when it comes down to it, they just got to see those sustained blocks, and I see that really good there. Again, Sam Mustipher isn't great. Ben Powers, again, we'll see. Mike McGlinchey isn't awesome, but they got 2 really freaking good starters, and I think that is good enough to put them in B tier again, with these other guys not being awful. The depth, again, it's not very good, but we'll get to that later. That comes out to 6, 12, and 16 points for the O-line. Now let's get into this overall roster grade. And doing the math for this offense, we've got 10 plus 9, I think that's 15 plus, 2 points plus 16. That gives them 52 points for this offense and are in the F tier. So, I mean, that's not good for the points. I'll give them a D. I don't think they're going to be that bad. I mean, it's hard to have an F tier, what is called roster grade on your offense. Like, you got to have it's got to be really, really, really bad. I mean, I'm not saying this is, like, good, but the O-line, I think, will be pretty decent this year, but again, when it comes down to the skill position, it's just not a good group. I mean, the tight end position, again, Adam Trautman's just not going to give you really anything in terms of, like, a productive receiver, just so nothingness. And then, again, Greg Dulcich will miss games. Again, 12 games in 2 years just isn't good enough. Wide receivers, again, they'll do something, but again, unpredictable quarterback. Not good. What is called running game in terms of, again, what you'll see from these running backs. Again, they'll probably be average with the offensive line being pretty good there. But overall, again, Sean Payton's got his work cut out for him. I got them in at a D grade for this offense. Let's get started out with this defense though with these linebackers, which again is a lot better. And the Broncos do run a 3-4 base defense, I guess. you could say, but they do, of course, have 2 off-the-ball linebackers that will be doing a lot of work for this team, of course. Their number 1 linebacker is Alex Singleton, who, again, is one of the best tacklers in the open field in the entire NFL. Of course, at a career high on 177 last year. He's a solid guy in zone coverage. Yes, he's kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say big, but a little bit like, I don't know. He doesn't move super well, so again, the man coverage again isn't great, but he's smart with it. So again, it doesn't really become a burden for him. Again, he does do a really good job when it comes to just basically maintaining a run defense and again just being able to control gaps as well. Really just a prototypical run defense middle linebacker. Again, makes a lot of tackles in the open field as well. Alex Singleton, really solid linebacker there. Cody Barton, of course, he played for the Commanders last year. He was not very good, I'm be honest there. I mean, he just really wasn't. But, of course, he had a good 2022 with the Seahawks. Did a lot of stuff for them. I expect him to get back to being, again, a pretty decent guy in coverage, which, again, they're not seeming to do a lot of this year. Again, is that kind of, like, middle of the field, like, intermediate middle of the field type of guy. But, again, I think he definitely filled that void. Again, he just wasn't very good last year. I don't think it was all his fault. Again, the corners were getting burned a lot. So, that's part of it. But, yeah, Cody Barton, we'll see what he can do this year. Jesus. But, yeah, probably an average guy, to be honest. Jonas Griffith, solid backup. Again, he played a good amount last year. I don't really see anything amazing with him. Again, he can make a couple plays in the what is called in the open field as what is called as a tackler, but in terms of again taking guys on, what is called as run blockers, he's not very good with that. Again, that's probably the reason he's not a starter. But again, he's got a couple good traits for sure. Again, I think he definitely a good solid backup there. Justin Strand, he hasn't really played much in his career. Again, in preseason, again 2021 played a little bit, but preseason what I see is just not really a very guy who seems to be on top of things. So isn't very proactive, more reactive, and even then his natural instincts just aren't good enough to start. I would not want him on the field again if I were the Broncos. But he has some good things here and there, so again, I guess that's okay. Drew Sanders, didn't he tore his Achilles? Holy crap, that's awful. But yeah, of course, as a rookie, he played a little bit, I guess. Yeah, again, it was weird. He played okay, I guess. Again, decent year. Didn't play too much. That really sucked. Again, he would be a really good depth piece for this team. But overall, this linebacking core I do think is pretty solid. I'll actually probably give them a B-. I'll give them a B. I like this group. Cody Barton, yes, he's not great, but again, Alex Singleton is probably really rock solid. Cody Barton, again, it has a lot of upside. So again, I think I will give them again like a little bit above average there. And the depth, yeah, it's not great. There's definitely worse depth in the league. So I'll give that 9, 18, and 24 points for the linebackers. Now let's get into this defensive line and obviously this overall pass rush of this football team. Okay, first looking at the defensive line, of course, they did make an addition. We'll get to him in a minute. But, of course, the guy they got last offseason during free agency was Zach Allen, who they did pay a pretty penny to get. And yeah, he's basically I wouldn't say he's a prototypical guy, but again, power rushing 3-tech, you won't get him confused with a guy like Chris Jones, obviously. But he does do a lot of good stuff. Again, his run defender really stepped up last year after a breakout 2022 season. Again, Zach Allen's a really solid player. He's definitely above average. Again, it's a guy you really want on your defensive line. I wouldn't say, again, there are some times where I'm like, yeah, if he had like an extra move, because he really just has a bull rush and maybe I guess a swim move, it's weird. But again, he does a lot of good stuff. Again, he gets pretty decent pressure. Again, he's a guy you definitely want on your football team. Matt Henningsen, he played a little bit last year, so shows some good stuff as a run defender. But again, he's kind of a rock as a run pass rusher. Just doesn't again do much in that aspect of the game. Again, just really probably he doesn't really penetrate well. Again, he kind of just a brick there. Doesn't really do much, but I will say this. He is a solid run defender. DJ Jones, solid nose tackle for sure. He's really good at penetrating and gets a lot of really good off the snap. But again, really when it comes down to it, just doesn't really get off blocks too well. So again, solid as a run defender though. Does really good job of not getting out leverage. Actually, probably an above average nose tackle, to be honest. Andrew Blackson, of course, former member of the Jaguars and the Bears. I mean, he's never really been that too great. But again, when he's been able to start, he's done a decent job. Again, the biggest issues with him, again, he just makes too many mistakes again in terms of leverage. And gets moved around a little bit too much as well. Again, when you watch him on film, again, when you see those big holes, he's usually the guy that's, again, I wouldn't say responsible for, but at least at the first level, not always there for that. But obviously, he does some good, again, pretty athletic overall. Again, he makes a lot of mistakes as a run defender, but he does make up for us a couple times here, again, as a pass rusher. John Franklin Myers, again, he hasn't really been the same guy. Again, more of an interior guy for sure, again, when we look at it. Again, he hasn't really been the same since 2021. He was pretty good in 2022, not as great last year. But again, he's a solid run defender, has a couple different finesse moves. But again, it's a 3-tech. Again, I think he really do a good job. I wouldn't be surprised if he had 10 sacks this year, which again is a high expectation because he's never been able to have more than 6. But again, I think again with the new position he's in, he's pretty good. Malcolm Roach, solid backup. I'm not gonna really go anything farther than that though. He's had some pretty good games in his career, obviously, but again, he'll do some good stuff. He'll do some bad stuff. Not great there. Overall, for this defensive line, I'll actually give them a B. Again, the depth is pretty decent, and obviously the starters are all again around a B caliber player. I do think John Franklin Myers though could be really freaking good here on the interior though as a 3-tech there. That comes out to B, and that's gonna be 6, 12, and 16 points. The versatility is not great on the defensive line, though. Again, like, you're not going to confuse Jonathan Myers again as, what is it called? Having to defend the A gap, but again, he does do a pretty good job. Even again, as a one tech, I guess you could put in there again if you want DJ Jones right on the center. Again, a lot of weird stuff there, but again, Jonathan Myers again, I guess you could put in there. But yeah, I'm gonna give them a B for the defensive line. Now, when we look at these edge rushers, Jonathan Cooper, he's more of a versatile guy. He did have 8.5 sacks last year again, which is really surprising to be honest with you, because on film he just didn't really win too often. He did get a lot of stuff up there, and he's actually really explosive off the edge. Has really good, some really good power moves. Again, for a 7th rounder at Ohio State, he's really thrived into a good player. Really developed his lot. Yeah, he doesn't have much of again in terms of versatility as again a guy like that, but again he's a really solid blitzer. I really do think Johnny Cooper is a really solid player. Has 70 tackles again, kind of versatile type of guy, but again he's a really good guy again, pretty dependable there. Again, he doesn't really have any sort of like finesse game though. He maybe has one move that I think might work here and there. Again, of course, the scissor move, but Jonathan Cooper again, pretty athletic, and I don't really know how he went that low. What it's called in the draft back in 2021, but again, he's proven to be a really good player. I wouldn't say again he's like anything crazy, but again, as again a versatile player, I guess he's good. Jonah Ellis, again out of Utah, again there's some good stuff coming out of here with him. Again, Utah's defense really did help him out though, because again I just don't think he has much of again. He's not the most athletic player, again, not really the most talented, but again, he's got a couple different good moves, and obviously, pretty good second step as well. Again, when it comes to the point of contact, does do a good job, and obviously, with these Utah guys, he'll be a pretty solid run defender in the league. Baron Browning, probably their best pass rusher, at least at this point. Yeah, he only had over 4.5 sacks last year, but again, solid run defender, again, in terms of again setting the edge. And again, he's got probably the deepest tool bag in terms of moves for, on his entire group. Nick Benito, he did have 8 sacks last year. Again, there's a lot of context needed for that, but again, he still had 8 sacks, so that is pretty good. When it comes down to it, again, this defense is really predicated on a pretty good, again, blitz system overall. Again, being able to run a lot of stunts, but when it comes down to it, Brian Browning's probably your best reliable guy in terms of that. But again, will it be sustainable? I really don't know, but again, with how this defense is ran, I really think it is. What's the heck's their DC? I keep forgetting his name. There we go. What is it called? Vance Joseph. I keep forgetting his name. Oh my god. It was the old guy. Whatever. I forgot Vance Joseph's back. Whatever. Yeah, he loves running these blitz schemes, and obviously it's worked out. So, pass rush wise, again, I think they'll be pretty disruptive this year. But again, I think when it comes down to the actual talent of this group, and it's more the scheme with what is called Vance Joseph, which will help out the identity than the actual talent of it, though. Because I mean, this is pretty average group overall. Again, they get a lot of production. I don't think it's again those guys actually being great though. The interior will get a pretty good amount of pressure though. I think it's C+ is fair. Because the edge rushing group really isn't that talented when it comes down to it. Even though again they do get pretty good production from that group. It comes at 24 points. Now let's look at this cornerback position. And now moving on to cornerback, of course, this is a group that again has some pretty darn good players, but when it's gonna be interesting to see how they again adjust overall. Levi Wallace, I think he'll be a solid option here. Again, he was not great last year for the what is called Steelers. And he had a pretty solid 2022 though. Also, this though pretty good on the boundary in terms of knocking the big plays, but that conservativeness does hurt sometimes when it comes to getting those crossing routes. Doesn't always get pick those up super well. In terms of again playing outside leverage, isn't always the greatest, but again inside leverage he's been really good in his career. So Levi Wallace, well, he's not again the greatest guy to have. Again, he'll do a decent job out there. Patrick Tanner, obviously top 5 corner in the NFL. Again, didn't have as good a year as he had in 2022, but again still an elite player there, obviously. DeMar Mathis, he struggled last year overall. Again, once Vance Joseph started again into a rotational role, he played a little bit better, but overall, again, he's had a pretty disappointing career up to this point, again, in terms of his as a starter. Art Green, of course, they picked what it's called at UDF at Houston. I don't know. Very big mystery here. But again, I think he could be this player. Again, he's got pretty good speed down the field, but his hip fluidity and his overall awareness needs some work. Riley Moss, I mean, he's a white corner. I don't really know what else to tell you guys. He put a little bit last year, which is good. Again, he's going to probably need to have a really good preseason and have a chance to get it really playing it all this year. We'll see, though. Jake Millen, probably the most underrated player. I would say he's one of the most underrated players. He made so many plays last year for this defense. I mean, like, once they started getting him in the games, like, this defense was so much better. Again, he just is a freaking man demon. He's only 5'10", 183, but again, in terms of press coverage in the slot, oh my god, he just absolutely wraps guys up. His tackling is also really solid. He's just big disrupt player, guys. Really freaking good. Look out for this guy next year. And again, they got Chris Abrams-Drain, who honestly, again, I think we could see a little bit of him last year. This year isn't a very fast guy, but again, he does some really good things against the run. I think they use him more of a hybrid player. But overall, when it comes down to the second what is called cornerback room, you got an elite number 1, obviously. Levi Wallace will be again, probably average. The depth, yeah, it's not great, but they have a really good slot as well. I'll probably give this group honestly a B. I'm gonna be honest. I think that's I'll actually. This is tough. Do I give him a B+? I think it's B because they have 2 really good players, 1 average corner. So the top 3 is pretty good, but after that, it's just not a very good group. So B+, I honestly think you could give them that, but honestly, I think, yeah, B's fair for this group. That comes out to 6, 12, and 16 points. Again, if they just had one more guy that was pretty decent, they'd absolutely, arguably be an A tier, to be honest. That's what I got for this cornerback position. Now let's look at the safety position. Yeah, I'm up here now, but of course, this is now safety time. Of course, they did lose Justin Simmons in free agency, but again, I don't even know. It's weird what happened with him. Again, he's not even signed yet. That's kind of ridiculous, but I think he's still a top 10 guy. Either way, though, Caden Stearns, he was interesting. Of course, he did not play last year, but in his first 2 years, I think, again, he has a lot of promise, to be honest. Again, in zone coverage, this guy could be a really big difference maker of this football team. Again, in terms of, turnover's sake, obviously. Really decent ball hawk. In terms of tackling, though, is not great. But again, man coverage, I think he did pretty good. Again, with the injury, though, last year, we really don't know what we're going to see out of him. Again, I think he'd be a good player for sure. But again, we just haven't seen enough. Brandon Jones, of course, before getting his, job snatched by, who was it, Sean Elliott last year, something like that. He still played a pretty good amount last year and did a pretty decent job. Again, the always big issue with him, again, he's just not very consistent in coverage. You can't really rely on him to be really even okay in man. But again, as a rangy deep guy, he will do his job somewhat well. So again, I guess that's okay there. The depth, PJ Locke, there's a reason he didn't play too much last year. I mean, he did have, 53 tackles, I get that. But I don't love PJ Locke because in terms of, his consistency in coverage, it's just all over the place. He does get baited a lot. He got some big plays were played against him, but he does make tackles. He'll make a play here and there. I get that. So there's goods. There's a couple more bads though. Larry Turner, yeah, I'll be honest. I kind of forgot this guy existed. He actually played a lot more at the end of the year. Again, there's nothing really to say about him other than the fact that again he does do a pretty decent job. At taking on blocks again when guys come downhill, but that's really about it. I mean, a little bit rangy, but again, overall, both these guys have played, but I'm not getting hyper over them. J.L. Skinner, again, he didn't really play at all last year. That's probably not a great sign, but we'll see. Overall, again, there's some interesting options here at corner. I'll probably give this group, I don't know, a C+. I like Caden Stearns a lot, so that's why I'm going to give him a C+. But in terms of after that, though, I mean, again, the backups, I'm just not getting crazy about. They're decent, but not going to get crazy over them. So that's going to come out to 18 points. Now to this overall defensive grade turns out. And doing the math for this defense, we do 24 plus 16 plus 24 plus 16 again plus 18. That's going to put them at 98 points, and they are in the C+ tier. I'll give them a C+. Again, yes, this defense had a miserable start to their season, but honestly, I think C+ is where they fit. Again, the secondary, again, overall is pretty decent group. Again, when it comes down to it, I just don't love the depth of this group. Again, it's not bad, but I'm not getting moved by it, and obviously, the front seven doesn't really have anyone elite, which again could be an issue. Again, there's no one really. There's two guys in the secondary that I think could be very, very big difference makers this year. But when it comes to the pass rush, I think will be pretty good this year. Of course, Vance Joseph loves to do, but. Again, when it comes down to the actual talent of the group, it's a little bit of average in my opinion. Again, that's when it comes down to a collective group there. But again, this defense plays better, always overperforms in some capacity, so that's why they're a C+ in terms of their talent. But again, I do like this group. It's pretty good squad here. But again, we'll see what they can do this year. That's all I got for the defense. Let's get to the special teams. Again, the depth of this football team, and again, the identity of this football team as well. And the dude kicking for the Broncos this year is the guy who kicked for them last year. That is Will Lutz. He did an okay job last year. I'm not going to really complain. Again, pretty average overall. He did break a couple extra points, which is a little bit concerning, I guess. But, I mean, he's always been a pretty accurate kicker. You're not going to complain him being there. Riley Dixon, good for the Rams in 2022. Yeah, not great last year, I guess. Honestly, I don't know. He's always been an average punter. He'll be in the league for a while. Marvin Mims Jr., explosive returner. He had a couple big ones, but, I mean, kind of like Deontay Spencer. I mean, he'll break one, then he'll kind of just not do anything for a couple weeks. Major for Bonnie, I heard he's a good long snapper, so I guess that's good. And overall, I think the special teams it's probably going to go an A tier to be, at an A grade. They've been good for a while now, and they always do make big plays at big times. So I think that's actually a really big trade for this team. They don't really make mistakes either. 3, 6, 9, and 10. Actually, I'll give them 11 points here for the special teams unit. All right, team depth, quarterback depth, probably a C because I mean, you keep throwing guys out there. Running back depth, I don't know. Probably going to give it a B+. I like it. Wide receiver depth, honestly, probably a B-. So right now we're probably probably a B for the depth in this offense. Tight end depth, I'll give that a C-. There's better. B- so far. O-line depth, probably a D+. So I'm going to be honest, probably the C+ for this overall offensive depth. Linebacker depth, I mean, probably a C. It's not great. D-line depth, C+, so probably C+ so far. Pass rush depth, actually it's probably pretty decent group, in terms of that, depth piece, so probably actually give them a B-. You know, I think a B- is fair, so we're probably at a B- so far. Cornerback depth, it's not great. Honestly, it's okay, probably C+, still at a B- though. Safety depth, honestly, probably honestly, I'll give them a B minus. So we're at a B minus. Honestly, I think we're gonna be minus for this team's depth. It's not like there's like gaping like trenches behind what is called gaping like huge holes behind, of course, the starters in this football team. But then again, I'm not gonna talk about like, oh yeah, they can go like 5 deep at corner. They can't, but they can go 3 deep, which again is pretty good. 12, 24, and 28, I guess, for what is called team depth. Either way though, identity. Pretty much this offense, again, Sean Payton's going to need to have what is called Bo Nix throw over the middle pretty consistently. Again, or at least have somebody do that, because that's what this offense is predicated on. And as well, this running game is going to have to be really solid beyond this. Again, the offense line is going to have to be a brick wall. Sure, they're going to have to be probably the best group in the league for this offense to be consistent. But again, we'll see. Just again, the inconsistent quarterback's probably going to keep this what is called group at a C minus. But I do not think the troubles last year will again be a big issue for them this year. Just because again, they at least have guys that think can throw with them. I don't know for sure, but we'll see. Defensively, I mean, it's pretty simple. Bench Joseph will make them play well. I mean, it's kind of simple. But yeah, identity-wise, I don't know. I'll probably give them honestly a B. They know how good they are. They're gonna play their strengths, which again is pretty good trait for a football team. 15, 30, and 40 points. Hopefully they surprise people. That's what I got for this group. Let's see what this overall roster grade does now. And after talking about all these visions, it's time for this overall roster grade, and that's 11 plus 28 plus 40 plus. What is that? 98 plus 52. And when you don't crack the 100 in 2 of the major categories, you get below 100, 230 points. Average is 234 though, so there's worse groups for sure. And 229 will put them in the C tier. I'll actually give this roster a D plus. I think that's fair for them. Yeah, it's not again the biggest roster hole, but this offense, I just don't. You know what? I think honestly C minus might be fair. This team again, when it comes down to it, they have a pretty decent defense. Yes, the offense again is super unpredictable, and I don't think it's a very talented group at all. But again, when it comes down to it, in the trenches, I think they'll be a pretty decent group overall. Again, they'll be able to again out physical a good amount of teams. They won't make too many mistakes in terms of tackling on defense, which I think is a big part of this group as well. And they're difference makers. Again, I think we'll be able to do that a lot. The depth is decent, which is good. And again, when it comes down to this offense, just can't suck, and I think they could be okay. But again, in the division they are in, could be rough. I mean, they should be able to win a couple games here and there. But overall, this roster isn't half bad. Even though again, again there are positions where I'm like, ugh. Specifically, obviously, on offense. That is all I got for the Denver Broncos, though. Again, leave your opinions on this roster grid in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, see you for another AFC team in 4 days? Something like that. But either way, of course, we got a preview coming out for you guys in 2 days. But yeah, until then, I don't know, enjoy your night. Yeah, see you then.
Roethlisberger in zone bound, and it is a touchdown. Martavis Bryant living up to the challenge.
Yep, nice route by him. Watch what he does. And you're thinking, how can he get open against Kirkpatrick in the back of the end zone? Top of your screen, number 10, little fake curl inside. Then look at the separation it gives him against Kirkpatrick. And Roethlisberger right on target.
Well, look at the catch as he tried to control it, make sure he didn't lose it.